On August 9th, 1988, the entire hockey world would come to a standstill as Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player of all time, would be shockingly traded to the LA Kings. But what the world didn't realize is that this trade would single-handedly ignite a brand new wave of hockey players. Now all of a sudden, fans who had never even thought about hockey for a day in their lives were glued to their TV. Millions of new fans were introduced to the great sport that is hockey. And one of those individuals was Bill Matthews. And yes, that is Auston Matthews. Because the Gretzky trade created so many new fans, it would single-handedly lead to the formation of the Phoenix Coyotes and the birth of desert hockey. Who would have thought? And as for Auston Matthews, if Gretzky was never traded, there is a large possibility that Matthews never plays a game of hockey in his life. And that is the incredible ripple effect when people realize the excitement in the world of hockey. Because keep in mind, yes, they are in America, but they might as well be in Mexico. Arizona has definitely taken great strides in the hockey facilities and training, but back in the 90s, you were lucky to find an ice time, let alone develop a potential generational talent in Auston Matthews. In fact, let's put this into perspective. I currently live in Canada. In my city of around 60,000 people, there is 8 different hockey rinks. Not to mention about 20 to 30 outdoor rinks in the winter, on top of infinite resources to develop your game. And if you're not from Canada, that is basically how every city or town is in the country. There were so many talented kids in my city, they had to start breaking up teams to form 2 teams. But when Auston Matthews grew up, he couldn't even find enough players to play games. In fact, growing up, in attempts to face off against better competition, Auston Matthews had to join Team Ukraine. He couldn't even talk or communicate with his teammates. But he did this because it allowed him to play in the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, where he faced off against legitimate talent for the first time in his life. And he would put up 6 points in 3 games. Not too shabby. Auston Matthews was a child prodigy who had a fraction of the resources of the typical hockey player. And growing up, everyone would treat him that way, like a hopeful player who had no shot because he was from the desert. And not until his final season of U16, where he would put up an unprecedented 100 points in 48 games, would Matthews finally gain some attention, as he would be invited to the United States Development Program for a tryout. And when he got there, staff and other players thought it was a clerical error when they saw he was from Arizona. But it didn't matter. Matthews dominated tryouts and rightfully made the team. And as a triple underager, Matthews would put up an extremely impressive 20 points in 20 games. Not bad, considering that he was literally unknown until this point. The next season, Matthews would go to an all-new level with 48 points in 24 USHL games. As an underager, 15 points in 8 U18 games. Insane. And at this point, Matthews was becoming a household name. In a 2-year span, Matthews went from basically an unknown prospect who didn't have a shot at making a major team to being the #1 ranked prospect in the world. So, heading into his draft year, instead of going down the traditional college route, Matthews would stick to the script of his chaotic development path and would opt to play in Switzerland. And well, Matthews, as an 18-year-old, would finish 2 goals behind the #1 scorer with 14 less games played. He would end up 2nd in MVP voting and remained the clear top prospect in the world. And of course, he would be drafted 1st overall by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And today, Matthews is a superstar. 47 goals in 70 games last season. And you can bet he will add at least 2 or 3 more Rocket trophies to his office. Matthews defied all odds. And what's crazy is that growing up, he was also a phenomenal baseball player. In fact, his dad even said he was a better baseball player than he was at hockey. But he chose hockey and went from unknown to one of the best American hockey players the game has ever seen. You know how I just mentioned how the Gretzky trade basically single-handedly led to Matthews playing hockey? Well, this cultural movement also led Disney to inventing the Mighty Ducks franchise, which would also lead to the creation of the Anaheim Ducks, as Disney literally bought an NHL franchise alongside of the launch of the movies. And you know what? Especially living in Canada, we take hockey for granted. We see it everywhere. We smell it, we hear it, maybe taste it.
Usual antics. Oh, it is a...
And what's amazing about movies and the movement like the Mighty Ducks or the trade of Gretzky, it rejuvenated hockey around the world, as it inspired and created a brand new generation of hockey players. And one of those hockey players came from one of the most unlikely places in the world. Nathan Walker, born in Cardiff, Great Britain, raised in Australia, the Down Under, watched the Mighty Ducks as a little kid, which led him to having a dream of making it to the NHL, and in a country that had less than 15 hockey rinks. Again, my small city has more hockey rinks than the entire country, but Walker would prevail. At the age of 13, Walker was playing against players who were 8 years older than himself, and he still dominated. And this amazing natural talent led to his family having to uproot their entire lives, as they would move to the Czech Republic, where at the age of 14, as a quadruple underager, Walker would join a U18 league. And he was legit, 42 points in 28 games. And throughout the next 6 years, he would continue to develop with the Czechs. And I can't stress this enough. The fact that Walker was able to develop his game in a country that could not care less about hockey. I mean, Mexico has just as many rinks as Australia, and he was able to transition into a legit league and dominate. That is nothing but spectacular. He would eventually get recruited to the USHL, where you would do this.
Does he have another one in store? He's coming in with speed, right straight in on goal. Quick deep, pulls it in on the backhand, gets tripped up, but he scores, and the Phantoms win tonight, 2.
Because at 5'8", Walker is a highly skilled, gritty, in-your-face player. And in 2014, Walker would be drafted in the 3rd round, and he would slowly develop into a great AHL player. Not to mention, he was the first Australian to score in league history. And through his determination and hard work, Walker has now played 17 games in the NHL and has scored 2 goals, making him the first Australian to ever step a foot on NHL ice. But wait, it doesn't just stop there. Walker would even play a single game for Washington in the 2018 playoffs, and he would get his name on a Stanley Cup. An Aussie-born player with next to no resources miraculously has a Stanley Cup ring. Not to mention, he would also get a point in that game. If that isn't inspirational to you folks, I seriously don't know what is. Hockey in Europe is fascinating, but also very, very confusing. We've seen superstars coming from countries like Sweden, Switzerland, Finland of course, but depending on the region, some countries neighboring some of these powerhouse countries don't even have regulated hockey programs. And this was the case for Daniel Sprong. Born in Amsterdam, Sprong's father Hanny was a hockey fanatic. In fact, he would even play a couple years semi-pro in a Netherlands hockey league. And with that, Daniel would also fall in love with the game. And just like Nathan Walker, there was next to no resources in the Netherlands to develop a hockey player. Hear this. At the age of 4 years old, Daniel was playing against 13-year-olds. Not once have I ever heard that much of an age gap in any hockey player's career. It's just insane. And well, he wasn't just a little kid getting in the way, he was playing good. And at the age of 7 now, Sprong was beginning to take over games. His talent was obvious. And just like Nathan Walker, Sprong's family would uproot their entire lives in Amsterdam and moved to Quebec in order to have more training facilities and resources to grow Daniel's seemingly natural superstar talent. And again, Even though Daniel played in a country that had little to no hockey resources, and the first year Sprong would arrive to Canada, he would play in his first major tournament, the Brick Invitational. Now, I've gone over this event several times, but if you aren't familiar, it is a world-renowned tournament for kids 9 and under. And on the grand stage, Daniel Sprong would walk in.
Corner, and Sprong picks it up, one player back. He does, he works the puck around on the far side. He scores!
And absolutely light up the tournament, as he was the tournament MVP. First in scoring with 10 goals, 15 points in 7 games. Pretty good for a kid playing his first competitive tournament in his life. And of course, this would lead to a phenomenal minor career. In 2013, Sprong would light up his league so badly, it wasn't even funny, as he would put up an incredible 104 points in 30 games. But wait, here is the scoring leaders. What? He would get drafted 13th overall in the QMJHL draft, where he would develop into a great player. A point per game in his rookie season, 88 points in his draft year. And if it wasn't for the 2015 NHL draft being one of the best drafts in NHL history, Sprong could have easily been a first round pick. Unbelievable when you consider his origins and just development path. You know, playing against teenagers basically as a toddler, like, are you kidding me? And so he would get drafted in the second round by the Penguins. Now, he has been kind of bouncing back and forth a lot the past couple seasons, but he has been a star in the AHL and still has a great future ahead. And speaking of dreams, you may think I'm lying, but I swear I'm not. I've had a goal of 50,000 subscribers since I was a little kid making Pokemon videos in like 2009. You know, I'm not sure why I didn't aim higher for like 100,000, but for real, you would really make my day by pressing subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys and girls. I know you're out there.